When I first became a product manager, I felt like I had finally made it. College and early jobs had been a series of stepping stones, but this role felt like the first one where I could really influence things, where my decisions mattered, and where I could combine strategy, design, and execution in one career. I imagined myself sitting in sleek conference rooms, leading teams, presenting to executives, making key product decisions, and watching my work come to life in the market. I thought I would feel respected, in control, and creatively fulfilled. I told myself this was the pinnacle of my career path, the place where skill and vision would finally meet impact. The first few weeks were intoxicating. I was introduced to the team, briefed on our product roadmap, and given my first small project, coordinate feature updates for a minor product. The office buzzed with activity, engineers typing furiously, designers sketching wireframes, marketers debating launch strategies. I soaked in every meeting, trying to understand the roles of every team member, every stakeholder, every tiny piece of the product puzzle. I left the office at night feeling like I was learning faster than ever before. I felt valuable, competent, and like I was finally making a difference. Then reality set in. Product management is gloriously misunderstood by almost everyone outside the field, and often by people inside it. You're the person responsible for aligning engineers, designers, marketers, executives, and customers, while also keeping the product on schedule, within scope, and within budget. You're expected to have vision, strategy, and empathy, but without authority over anyone on the team. You are responsible for everything, but often control nothing. Suddenly, the thrill of influence became a pressure cooker of competing priorities, conflicting stakeholders, and endless decisions. The stereotypes about product managers aren't wrong. People joke that PMs are mini CEOs, but the reality is closer to professional fire extinguishers who get paid in meetings. You are expected to know the technical details without being an engineer, the design nuances without being a designer, the market research without being in marketing, and the business outcomes without having control over the budget. Every meeting exposes how much you don't know, and every decision has unintended consequences. You're constantly mediating, translating, negotiating, and troubleshooting. Sometimes it feels like you are a human Swiss Army knife whose edges have been dulled by endless stakeholder requests. Ambiguity is the bread and butter of product management. Unlike engineering or design, where progress is visible, code compiled, wireframes finished, product management is mostly invisible. My day was filled with emails, Slack messages, roadmap updates, and endless alignments that often didn't lead to tangible outcomes. By the end of the week, I often felt exhausted without having a single measurable accomplishment to show. It's a job that demands emotional labor, constant context switching, and patience that borders on masochism. I quickly learned that PMs are walking contradictions. You are simultaneously too busy to actually code or design, and yet expected to be intimately familiar with every line of code and pixel alignment. You're supposed to be a visionary, charting the future of the product, while also being an unpaid therapist for engineers who are convinced a minor UI change will collapse the entire system. You are the person who schedules meetings about other meetings. You are the person who explains that a feature can't launch because 3 teams didn't talk to each other. And yet somehow, despite all this responsibility, when something inevitably goes wrong, you're the one who gets blamed. The first real PM crisis hit me 3 months in. I had been managing a mid-size product launch, coordinating engineers, designers, and marketing, when the CEO decided to change the target audience 2 weeks before launch. Overnight, the entire roadmap became irrelevant. I spent days reworking specifications, convincing engineers that yes, this still made sense, and attempting to persuade marketing that a complete pivot wasn't the end of the world. Every hour felt like spinning plates over a pit of lava. I joked to a colleague that I had accidentally signed up for a live-action game of Jenga Corporate Edition. They didn't laugh. Nobody laughed. Then there's the absurdity of meetings. As a PM, I quickly learned that meeting culture is both a lifeline and a curse. Daily stand-ups where everyone talks about what they did yesterday and what they plan to do tomorrow, sprint planning sessions where velocity metrics are debated like sacred texts, and review meetings where every minor feature is scrutinized until it feels like it was personally designed by the executive team. One Friday, I counted 6 meetings that could have been condensed into one 30-minute email. I wasn't sure if I was a facilitator, a note-taker, or just a human time vacuum. The pivotal moment came about 6 months in. I was managing a high-stakes product rollout, one that was supposed to be career-defining. I coordinated cross-functional teams, scheduled executive presentations, and managed dozens of dependencies. I thought I was prepared for everything. Then, on launch day, a bug surfaced that caused our product to misfire for a critical subset of users. Customers complained on social media, executives were furious, and engineers scrambled to patch the problem. I stayed late into the night, responding to urgent messages, coordinating fixes, and trying to soothe panicked stakeholders. I left the office exhausted, frustrated, and questioning everything I thought I knew about my abilities. That day, I realized that being a PM meant being responsible for chaos and constant firefighting. The aftermath was emotionally draining. I questioned my competence and wondered if I was cut out for the role. Imposter syndrome settled in hard. I had studied strategy and management. I had prepared for every scenario, yet I felt powerless in the face of real-world problems. I spent nights replaying decisions, wondering what I could have done differently, and feeling the weight of every missed opportunity. The pressure to look composed and competent in front of executives while managing teams behind the scenes became a constant source of anxiety. Socially, the role isolates you in subtle ways. Colleagues may vent frustrations to you, executives demand updates, and engineers quietly resent delays. Yet everyone expects you to be the calm, composed bridge. You're constantly translating, interpreting, and mediating, leaving little room for genuine connection. Friends outside the office ask what you do, and when you say, "I'm a product manager," their eyes glaze over. You try to explain, but the work is nuanced, unpredictable, and often invisible. It's a lonely position, perched between leadership, execution, and customer expectation. Then there's the subtle comedy of PM stereotypes. You are expected to produce product roadmaps that predict the unpredictable, write specs that cover all edge cases while remaining concise, and negotiate deadlines as if you were a UN diplomat. You get the PM-isms? We need to circle back. Let's take this offline. Can we align on expectations? It sounds like jargon, and it is, because the only skill you can reliably showcase is the ability to talk endlessly about what should happen without ever actually doing it yourself. Sometimes I laughed at myself in private. I was essentially paid to facilitate chaos, document it, and pretend it made sense. Financial and career pressures compound the emotional strain. Many PMs are expected to manage multiple products, teams, or features simultaneously. Each carries stakes for performance reviews, promotions, and bonuses. You can work 50, 60-hour weeks and still feel like you're barely keeping up. Every delayed launch or missed metric feels like a personal failure, even when the factors were beyond your control. The grind erodes confidence, making even small victories feel fleeting. Yet, despite the chaos, there are moments of clarity. The first time I successfully aligned a team on a complex roadmap, the first time I saw a feature I had managed be used by thousands of customers, the first time an executive complimented a solution I proposed, those moments reminded me why the job exists. They are fleeting, but they are profound. They show that despite the chaos, the ambiguity, and the stress, your role has impact. You are shaping products, teams, and experiences in ways that few other positions allow. Over time, I learned resilience. I learned to manage ambiguity, prioritize ruthlessly, and communicate clearly under pressure. I learned to detach slightly from outcomes I couldn't control and to celebrate small wins instead of waiting for the perfect launch. I learned patience, humility, and adaptability, understanding that a PM's work is often invisible, underappreciated, and misinterpreted, but that doesn't make it any less essential. By the second year, I had found a rhythm. I developed frameworks for decision-making, templates for alignment, and strategies to manage conflicting priorities. I learned to manage my energy and expectations. I started to see that product management isn't glamorous. It's a grind, a juggling act, a constant exercise in diplomacy and problem-solving. But it also builds a skill set that is unmatched: cross-functional leadership, strategic thinking, empathy, and adaptability. Looking back, being a product manager sucks in ways that aren't obvious. You're constantly balancing competing demands, navigating ambiguity, and absorbing blame for factors outside your control. You work long hours, manage invisible stress, and endure repeated setbacks. The job tests patience, resilience, and confidence every day. Yet, it's also uniquely rewarding. It forces growth, teaches leadership, and gives you a front-row seat to the creation of something meaningful. The key lesson? Success as a PM isn't about perfection. It's about adaptability, persistence, and perspective. It's about learning to influence without authority, navigate chaos with composure, and find satisfaction in small victories. You'll face setbacks, missed launches, and frustrated stakeholders. But if you survive, you emerge with skills and insight that few other careers offer. The grind is relentless, but the growth is lasting. Being a product manager is exhausting, unpredictable, and stressful, but it's also a role that forces you to become the person capable of thriving under pressure. It's a crucible that tests every skill you thought you had and forces you to acquire those you didn't know you needed. And in the end, even though it sucks in every possible way at first, you walk away stronger, wiser, and capable of navigating a world that rarely rewards perfection, but always demands resilience.